Welcome to day two of Next Level Career Growth. Tonight we're going to be talking about networking, outreach, and interviewing and negotiating. And this is where it gets fun. I mean, once we've done all the work with your resume and your LinkedIn profile to put your value proposition together and you're comfortable with communicating about what it is you can do for an organization or an individual client, whatever it may be, then we get to the fun part. How do you get your credentials in front of as many of the right people as possible? So, thanks for joining me here this evening, and we'll go from there. All right, first thing we're going to do on today's agenda is look at homework from last night. And there was a couple of accomplishments that hoping that you have had a chance to write out. The next thing we're going to do is create an outreach strategy and determine who is your target or what. I mean, normally it's a who, but what is also important. And how do you reach them most efficiently? Getting organized around that is really important so you maximize the efficiency of your time usage. And then we get to interviewing and negotiating, which is always fun. There are going to be some volunteers in the audience. Just heads up, fair warning, okay? Be ready for that when we get to it. So let's dive right in. And going back to the slide from last night about the Landit method, we are now at networking and nurturing. That's what we're looking at now, and then we're going to get to interviewing and influencing here in a little while. Again, I can't help but show you my favorite capital letters in Canva, and we'll move forward with this. All right, so we're going from first base to second base by doing outreach and networking properly. And what I want to do first, before we go forward, is let me just do this here. Hold on a second. Nope. I'm going to go back, is what I'm going to do, because we didn't do the review of day one accomplishments. I thought I had another slide that addressed that. So why don't we do that? Who would want to chime in with your one or two accomplishments that you were able to put together last night?
I can go. I had four or three of these already done,
Okay.
just for interview purposes. Um,
How recently did you do them? What was the timing on them?
Probably within a year.
Okay. All right. So they're current is what I'm saying. It's not like something from 15, 20 years ago. That's what I'm really looking
Oh, okay. Oh, no, yeah, no. Well, actually, they kind of cover a time span. I can read the newest one.
for. Okay, either one. Either one is fine. I just
Yeah.
was curious how recently you did them, and B, what time frame was involved with what you're listing. But you'll say that, I'm sure, when you go through it. So let me keep my mouth shut and go ahead.
Okay. So, my first, I guess the one I'm sharing is I had a team. I had a low performing person. Low performing direct report, and
Okay.
he's a supervisor. Um, I had five direct reports. He was not performing as well as the others, and maybe it was a lack of attention to detail and follow up on commitments, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and repeated feedback during our one-on-ones didn't really seem to motivate him to improve their performance. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll work on that or that type of thing. So
Kind of standoffish, a little bit,
a little bit,
ignoring it, or what? How would you describe it?
I think it was more, he felt he was doing a good enough job and kind of, yeah, complacent. Just didn't want to,
Okay.
put more effort into it. So really, the task was how to improve their performance and have them be more accountable for their actions and their commitments.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I just happened to speak with an HR rep. Um, it was probably like a couple of days after I had it, and it was how do I motivate this person?
Okay.
And I documented on the PM plan, their performance. It was adequate. It wasn't, um, there were some gaps, right? Mainly the accountability, that type of thing. Um,
I'm
and
gonna
this was an ongoing thing.
I'm just gonna interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
When we get to interviews, this has to be a 15 or 20-second
Right.
circumstance
Okay.
action result. Okay, so I only for the not just for the purposes of time, but for the purposes of effectiveness when you're
Right.
in the interview. So go ahead. Now I'll say, just give me the circumstance, action, and result, and then we can get to the other side of it based on what you say.
Okay. So HR suggested placing them on a performance improvement plan, and meeting with HR and the employee.
Right.
This is what the requirements are. You need to improve your performance in these certain areas, and that I would be here to help them. And what ended up happening was really very quickly. They improved their performance. They started coming in earlier to get a jump on the day. They became more accountable for their commitments, meeting the timelines, or even sometimes earlier than the other supervisors. And I received actually feedback from their operators that the supervisor was more involved in their day-to-day activities on the floor, things like that. So
Great.
it was a success.
Okay,
So
so
really just improving his performance.
I'm going to crystallize this. Say, had a poor performing employee, which was identified both by HR and myself,
Right.
sat him or her down and said, hey, these are the requirements that are needed, confirmed that with HR. The outcome
Right.
was the employee improved, started coming in earlier, getting the job done much more effectively. You got feedback from those on the line. Then I would ask you what other results came out of it. In other words, what, because of this improved performance of this individual and your mentoring, what happened, if you can quantify it, in terms of
Sorry about that.
efficiency? That's okay. In terms of improved operating line efficiencies, or I'm making it up, whatever it might be, because it's not just the he did better or he
Right.
got off probation. It's what's the outcome because of that.
How did it benefit the organization?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
So if you
something, yeah, I'll need to really kind of work on. I mean,
that's
really, Bill, what do you suggest as far as how many lines these should be?
well, what I usually say is make them as many lines as you need to so that you can get your thoughts down.
Okay.
All right. Then the exercise, and this we work on this a lot. Okay, not just in this phase, but on your all the bullet points in your resume, and some of this will get you a LinkedIn profile. But then it comes down to how do you speak about it during an interview? Okay, in a situation like this, you want to be very crisp about how you describe the situation.
Right.
One of the accomplishments I had in this role during this time frame was we had a very lean organization, and one of my 5 direct reports was not performing well. After
Right.
repeated meetings about it, I eventually went to HR. We put a performance plan together, and he stepped up. He started coming in early. He started getting the job done more effectively. His direct reports started giving me feedback that things were improving significantly, and the eventual outcome to the organization was A, B, or C percentage, dollars improvement, time saved, whatever
Okay.
it might be. Okay, so and my guess is that you have several other ones that you could work from, and I'm interested. I'm Let me say this. I'm intrigued by the fact that you put that one as first. Okay, and that's not a problem. I'm thinking that
Yeah.
given your role, that there may be some other ones that have some higher impact both for you and the organization. But we'll hold off on that for the
Okay.
moment. For the moment, okay. Oliver or Amy? Thanks, Raj.
I can go next.
Yeah, good.
I'm just adding a little bit more here because I realized that I kind of kept it like short and concise, but I feel like in the context of like here and not in an interview, I feel like I need to provide a little bit more context before I get to the kind of like the short bit of it.
That's fair.
So,
But
mhm,
but here
okay.
but here's the key thing, and I'm saying this before you even start.
Mhm,
You have to frame it. In other words, the circumstance has to be clear so that somebody can,
mhm.
so it's not just coming in out of left field that you're
Right.
speaking to it. Okay, so ultimately it needs to get to that clear, compelling, and concise short version that you were speaking to. But if you need
Mhm,
to set the framework of it, particularly here for this, but
mhm,
in an interview as well, you want to make sure that somebody on the other side of the Zoom call, the other side of the desk,
mhm.
understands, oh man, this was a tough situation, or this was a situation that may have not. Um, anyway, I'll let you go. I'm
Yeah.
interrupting before you
Okay.
get started, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I'm relatively new at this. So I'll take all the feedback I get.
Okay,
But yeah, I'm just gonna make it clear where I
give
would actually start within the context of an actual interview.
give me 1 second if I could welcome Ava and Kevin to the call. Okay, and Oliver is going through right now one of his key accomplishments. So Oliver, go.
Okay. All right, so just a little bit of brief context before I get into it. So I'm a marketing specialist for an incentive and rewards firm. Just to kind of like keep it short, that's basically B2B, provide different software solutions and incentive travel programs for their clients.
Hmm.
And part of my job is kind of owning the social media strategy and tracking the website performance. And in the context of this, we had just relaunched our corporate website, and we want to drive more traffic from different sources, including social media.
Okay,
So, okay, so yeah, that aside, this is what I would actually say.
go
So
ahead.
to drive, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Okay, so to drive organic awareness and website traffic following the relaunch of our new corporate website, I needed to increase overall web traffic through organic traffic through social media channels.
Okay.
So I planned and launched a targeted LinkedIn incentive travel campaign tailored to key audiences, pairing focus messaging and with interactive post strategies to maximize audience participation and engagement. And
Okay.
the result was that the campaign generated 21.2% average engagement rate and drove an 88 month over month increase in organic social traffic in Google Analytics.
Okay, great. Is there something that you can compare those numbers to? Like, for
Mhm.
instance, an open rate for emails above 20% is always
Mhm.
considered good.
Yeah. So
So,
industry generally what's it called? Engagement rate for LinkedIn averages around 2 to 5%. So 21% is very good.
okay, that's the context that needs to
Yeah.
happen during your,
Okay.
and I may have to hire you, by the way. So we have another conversation coming here. That's really good because if you say 21%, which is six
Mhm.
to 10 times higher than normal on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, that puts the context around it. Okay, I mean,
Right. Yeah. No,
I
yeah. I kind of realized that as I was saying it. I kind of put this together a
that's
little late
okay.
the last time here, but
Look, that's
yeah.
okay. I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean, this is the practice field. This is
Mhm.
not a live interview. Okay, so great, thank you, Amy.
There's the button. Okay. Uh, okay, I realized forgot to include one. Okay, I guess I got published 10 works of writing, won 6 awards for writing, finished full 5 book fantasy book series, uh, directed production of audiobook adaptations of 5 book series, created, designed, and produced a deck of playable cards, uh, with full artwork, I guess. Does that count?
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure if
mean,
I'm doing this right.
no. You're basically you're stating the result right away, or you're stating kind of actions and results right away. Okay, so let me just
Okay.
reframe it slightly. Um, I'm a published author, and I published, what is it, six? How many books have you published? Six, seven, eight? What's the number?
10,
10.
10.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm light by a few. So I've published 10 books, and the process of going through those books, I did the following steps, and eventually sold X number of books for whatever titles you want to talk
Hmm.
about. Okay, so the circumstance is you have the creative ability to write these kind of
Oh, hi, sweetheart.
novels.
I'm in a meeting right now. Can you wait, please? Thank you. Sorry.
Well deflected, by the way. He um, so so you just kind of went straight for the action step, which is great. But the outcome is how many books you published, how many you sold, and
Hmm.
the process that you went through both creatively and strategically to create those outcomes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so you get all the pieces. All right, it's just a matter of how we weave them together to create a viable resume bullet point or even a whole section, because that clearly would be a section of your resume, not just one bullet point like what Oliver and Raj were speaking to. So,
Okay.
all right. So, how do you all feel about this whole approach? Because what it comes down to is it forces you to think logically about what it is that you've done and how the impact um, affected the organization or you, and it also forces you to be really tight about how you communicate related to it. All right. So these are the kind of rehearsal steps that we go through, not just for your resume and the bullet points that come along with it, but for interviews. Because let's say you have a half hour or 45-minute interview, and we're going to be speaking about that a little bit later tonight. You only have five, six, seven subjects that you can speak about during that time frame. The longer you spend speaking about one is the shorter you have to speak about some of the others that may be relevant for that particular position. So I'm looking at the interview now as, from 30,000 feet. You're going to speak about, subject A, B, C, D, and E. But if you spend 20 minutes on A, and well, maybe the interviewer wants to do that, which is a separate thing. But if you talk 20 minutes about A, then you don't have nearly as much time to talk about the other things that may be specifically valuable for that role. Okay, so and it takes practice, and again, that's what we do if we're working together. I mean, we do a lot of that back and forth practice. And Raj, I quote unquote practiced interviewed with you just now, to kind of consolidate what it is that you were saying about how you handled that underperforming staff member. So, okay, great. How did each of you come do on the ideal career or job? And if you say I'm not sure yet, that's okay. All right, and because we're going to get to a format here that I have found works really well, and I found this to be an evolving exercise. Like, you may have the right type of direction, but it may not be as concise or as tight a niche, if you will. And as you go through the job search process, we can reevaluate that as well. But it's certainly good to find state what a direction is going to be related to your job search, so that you can be clear with people you're networking with and with the interviews you decide you want to pursue. That's going to make a much more efficient use of your time, and you'll get to the finish line much faster. So why don't we hold off on the ideal career or job, because there's a slide here that's going to represent that. So what we're going to do the remainder of this half of this evening is creating an outreach strategy about your targets, how do you reach them, getting organized around that, and then we'll do interviewing and negotiating. Okay, so we've done these slides. Okay, here is the search objective, which is why I was holding off here for a second. This is a live version of what a client and I did, I don't know, I want to say 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, either way, to find a senior manager, director, or VP position in sales, business development, or marketing that's within 30 miles of, he happened to live in Brooklyn. The role could be in several industries such as media, video production, movie and theater, or other related services, with a base salary of 75 to 100 and an upside to 150. He actually found exactly a position that fit this. Unfortunately, the company went out of business 2.5 years later, and he ended up doing something else. But the bottom line is, the clearer you are about what you're looking for and why, the easier it is to find it. It's like, as a friend of mine says, well, when you tell the universe what you want, then you'll get it. And it's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically it. You communicate to others, and when we get to the networking process here, you'll understand what I'm saying. These are the kind of positions that I'm pursuing. It becomes much easier for others to support you to find those roles as well. All right. So search objectives. If you've had a chance to do that, this is where we can fill those in. If you want to chime in, if not, that's fine. But at least one would be helpful if you can do that. Either of you do that right now would be great. We have crickets. That's okay.
I wasn't really able to get to this, unfortunately.
That's okay. That's okay. But understand that this is the kind of the platform for everything else that's going to come after this. All right. And I'm not going to chastise you at all, Oliver, because again, there's a lot coming at you in the last 24 hours that you may not have been expecting. But Raj, I'm going to point to you just because you've said that you were looking for a position similar to what you've been doing in a manufacturing role. Could you describe that kind of in this format, or is there another one that you may have worked through?
To find, it would be certainly that first line is more or less is the same. I would just either replace sales with in a manufacturing organization, right?
Okay.
Within 30 miles of where I live in central New Jersey. The role would be in pharma, biopharma.
Okay.
A company whether it's a small, medium, or a large company. I have experience in all three.
Okay.
Um, and, you know, looking at a salary of, 130 to 150 K.
Okay, great. So more than two Domino's pizzas or $12 an hour. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Okay, so again, having a full understanding of what your worth is or what your value is in the marketplace, and that's something we're going to get to a little later,
right.
is really important as well because a lot of people undervalue themselves just because they don't have the information, and that's important. All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Raj. Amy, you want to chime in on this, or do we keep moving forward? Because this is not aligned at all
Um,
with. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm still not really sure how to translate this.
That's okay. That's okay for now. Okay, that's okay for
Yeah.
now. But just know that the clearer you are about what kind of role you would want to have in an organization or how to serve
Oh,
clients.
oh yeah, I would want to be the lead writer for any animated film or shows, either at DreamWorks or Disney.
Now we're
That's
talking.
honestly, that is my dream job.
Now we're talking. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on to that. Hold on to that thought.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's keep rolling. And I just what I'm listing here is going to represent somewhere around 95% of available quote unquote jobs or positions. So I'm going to start with for-profit businesses and large, medium, and small companies, consulting or coaching. I my four careers spanned these first four right here. Okay, this and started my own business. Then healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, etc., hospital payers and insurers, assisted living, and as people move on, particularly baby boomers, and yes, I am one, um, move on in their years, healthcare is going to continue to be a growing industry with a lot of available options. Legal and regulatory or entertainment. And Amy, I'll put what you just said into the entertainment category, at least for the moment. Then there's government, public sector, federal, state, county, and local, first responders, law enforcement, education, administrative staff, or teachers, professors. My wife was the director of a bilingual daycare center for 37 years before she retired, and it would have driven me up a wall, but she was great at it. And that's the whole thing about finding your ikigai, your purpose, is to land in that role that you're good at, you can get paid for it, you enjoy doing, and the world needs it. So that again, keep that in mind as we're looking at the rest of these. Nonprofit organizations, cause-related, political, church, ministry, philanthropic. I've had the good fortune of working with people in every one of these except firefighters, the law enforcement, emergency medical technicians. I've had first responders, ex-military, etc., and then all the other ones in the private sector from the first page. So then I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And this is a little bit unfair because we haven't really gotten out of the gate yet, but as we get the process off the ground, I'm going to be asking you, how is your marketing or media plan? And Oliver spoke about how his LinkedIn outreach plan for the company he was working with or the client that he was working with was very effective in terms of engagement. So that's the whole purpose of outreach and networking, is to create engagement that's better than trying to send resumes through the black hole of the applicant tracking systems. All right, so networking we're going to associate this with is related to people and outreach as opposed to just blindly sending your resume through and applying for jobs that are posted. And I'll tell you why here in a minute. So, are your credentials in front of the right hiring managers, recruiters, and networking group? Those are your top three. And I'll go into detail on the recruiters here in a minute. Then there are some other kind of additional groups and individuals that are really valuable to your career depending on where you are. There are nonprofit associations, lots of social media groups, both on LinkedIn, Facebook. I see them all the time. Alumni associations, either for companies you've worked for or for colleges you've attended. Trade associations, and then the most important thing, that's why it's in capital letters here, are those that are already in your network. And we're going to go into detail about how to optimize those conversations going forward. Okay, is it the right geography? Can it be remote? Why is it a good fit? All right, so ask yourself these types of questions as you're going through the outreach process. As a consultant, in which I became a consultant back in the 2000 in the pharmaceutical industry doing product development, market research, and commercialization of various delivery systems, et cetera, primarily in the pharmaceutical industry. If you become a subject matter expert, people will be finding you. And I probably should have put LinkedIn first here, but Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube can create the circumstance by which you as an SME will get people reaching out to you. Some customers and clients that I've worked with have blogs or podcasts, and there are several meetup groups that can have interactive. Clubhouse a few years ago was really big on this, where they'd have sponsored speakers coming in, sometimes two, three, or four in a half hour or 45-minute period to speak about their expertise, and there would be others flocking to find more information out from them. If you're more local, chambers of commerce, industry experts with local associations and other community outreach, regional or national organizations. I happen to be going, as is Josh and Amy, to a national fraternity convention this weekend. And there's some really, really good contacts there that I'm intending to catch up with based on the fact that I went 2 years ago and I presented to the undergraduates there. It was a presentation called Shifting from Campus to Career so that they could have a smooth pathway to their first job out of college. Okay, so one day I'll pay Canva for this, but so far I haven't. Your network is your net worth. All right, so when you look at the number of people in your phone, on your email lists, that are friends or connections on Facebook or LinkedIn, these are the people that can be the most valuable in your job search because they can get you to the top of the resume pile, and I'll get into that here in a minute. I happen to have over 4,000 people in my phone. I had a LinkedIn profile up until 2023. Got taken down during COVID because I held a positive COVID test and I was smiling and I posted it on LinkedIn, and 2 days later my profile was down. I lost 5,100 connections, had to start all over again. It was really, really annoying. That said, the people that you're connected with are part of your network, and that is directly related to your net worth. Okay, proper time allocation during job search and outreach. This is something that I speak about with clients all the time. And the reason I do it is because I want you to optimize your outcome. I want you to get 2 or more viable offers in, let's say, a couple of months that are competitive, that you will be able to say, okay, look, I have options and I have negotiating leverage. But if you spend all of your time applying to posted ads and the response rate is 0.5% to 2%, you're not going to get there. So what you need to realize, and this isn't just you, this is everybody, and these percentages have been pretty consistent for decades. Only 20 to 25% of jobs are due to posted ads. And 30 years ago, posted ads were the New York Times classified section on Sunday, or the local Newark Star Ledger, or whatever the paper might be. Atlanta Constitution, I'm not even sure that's still out. But anyway, the job boards today are like Grand Central Station, LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, etc. Companies are swamped with resumes. I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and Raj, you were there, where there are, on average, 250 applications or more for a posted position, and only 4 to 6 people actually get an interview. Again, a 0.5 to, I said 1% here, sometimes as high as 2, especially when there's web developers or higher demand roles. It's like buying a lottery ticket. Recruiters handle 5 to 10% of placements. The other, and this isn't an amazing figure, but again, it's been pretty consistent for a long time, 65 to 70% of hires are due to the networking capability of the hiring manager or company, the candidates, or people in the middle. Okay, and we're going to speak quite a bit here in the next couple of minutes about the people in the middle, because those are really important. People you know and then who they know. So, for effective outreach, develop clear target lists, the type of industries or companies that you're looking to be employed by, reaching out to former associates, asking for advice, not help. And I'm going to go into 2 slides just based on this one quote-unquote script. You can find target companies and industries through several online databases. My former favorite was Reference USA, onet.org, Dun & Bradstreet, and Moody's. They have free sites where you can find information about the companies, typically the executive officers, etc. I've also found recently that ChatGPT does a terrific job if you give it the right prompts. And every one of the clients that I'm working with right now, and I think it's 19 active, has some form of chat GPT output that says these are the people they should be targeting based on their backgrounds and their interests, and these are the companies they should be targeting. And it really does provide you with the pathway. You still have to do the outreach though, okay? ChatGPT is not going to do that for you. So I'm going to show you here a target summary sheet that you can use as a networking tool with people that you know. The best people are former bosses, colleagues, clients, vendors, or committee members. Those are usually your best starting point with this, and again, using this with networking contacts. So this is a watered down version of the, I'll call it search criteria sheet. I call it target jobs and industries that you and I fill out together to make sure that number one, you're clear about the direction you're going, and number two, when you communicate to others, they are clear as well. So this is completely, totally an example. Okay, this is going to be very different for each and every one of you. Functional area of a business or organization, either business development, program management, program analysis, media relations, public relations. This person happened to have, this is a live summary sheet. This person had all this experience. Assistant manager, senior manager, or individual contributor. In fact, because he had all of these experiences, he actually, I try to convince him to be a director of several others that had these types of duties, but he didn't want the responsibility. I said, okay, that's fine. He also had government, nonprofit, technology, and financial services experience. So again, these are the directions he wanted to go. Now, this might seem a little bit all over the place, but again, he could speak to the fact that he had these experiences. I didn't list any specific companies here, but that's part of the exercise, is to fill those in so that when you use this sheet in the following way, and again, I'm going to ask you, one of the homework assignments tonight is going to be list 10 people who could help your search. And I just mentioned before, bosses, former bosses, colleagues, vendors, customers, committee members, or clients. And others who can provide advice and introductions. And those could be, again, alumni associations, family and friends. When I'm working with recent graduates, I say, listen, parents of your friends or your schoolmates are often very, very good contacts, especially if they know you. They will help you more than any other situation. They want to see people get off to a good start. If you happen to be part of a church, a temple, or a mosque, or you know some high-profile doctors, dentists, lawyers, accountants, these people can all be really valuable in terms of your outreach. Here's the script that I was mentioning a few minutes ago. I'm going to use Raj as an example. Raj, you and I have known each other for a while, and I've always respected your opinions and perspective. I would love to hear your advice about a number of career options I'm considering. Would you have time for a coffee or a Zoom call this week? All right, so two things happen when you say something like this. Number one, you put the other person on a pedestal, even if that person was, say, lower than you in the hierarchy of an organization. You put him or her on a pedestal because you say, I've always respected your opinions and perspective. Number two, when you ask for advice, you're not sitting there with your hands folded in the prayer position saying, I need a job, please help me. Okay, that's what you don't want to do. When you ask for help, people will have a tendency to go like this, the big red X, because they say, well, what does help mean? That could be months. If you're asking for advice, that usually means 15 or 20 minutes of their time, and they know that they've, quote unquote, given you what you were looking for on a one-time basis. Now, there may be more than one call that comes along with it, but advice narrows the scope by which somebody feels a, quote unquote, responsibility to support you in your job search. Okay? Now, overcoming obstacles to outreach, and some of these I see every day of the week. In fact, I have them myself occasionally. Attitude, always be positive. Pre-qualifying others. You don't know who they know, and that's a really important thing. Pride, afraid to ask for advice. You might put them on a pedestal, or they may put you on a pedestal, one way or the other. Some people have some discipline and organization problems, which we work through by using Excel spreadsheets or similar things that will kind of keep you organized. Hesitation. This is the one that shows up the most. Hesitation and or procrastination. I will say this. Most people are really, really glad to hear from you. I don't have this on a recording, but one of my current clients who has split her time between New York City and northern Israel over the past 30 years came to New York to meet with the people that she was employed by for the last 4 years. She got laid off the first weekend that she showed up. Then she started like outreach, like all the people that she knew. She ran into some lawyers that worked with her. She was a paralegal at a law firm back in the 90s. She reached out to them, and two of them within 3 days said, "When can we get coffee?" Almost 30 years ago. Okay, so Oliver and Amy, you don't have this issue. Raj and I might. All right. The bottom line is you'd be surprised how many people are glad to hear from you, unless you just had a knockdown, drag out, bad, you know, relationship at one form or another. But most people are really flattered that you're going to reach out to them for advice about your careers. And frankly, most people have been in the situation that you may be at this point too, so they have some empathy that goes along with it. All right. So I'm going to switch gears slightly to recruiters. I was placed 5 times in my career by recruiters, and each one of them was a unique experience. And there are 2 types of recruiters. One is a contingency, and it's like a real estate agent. They're only paid when the role is filled or when the house is sold, similar type arrangement. And they may sell a job to you that might not be the best fit. So you have to be careful about what's being said and what's being communicated both between you and the company, you and the recruiter and the company. A retained search is usually a much safer way to go for 2 reasons. Number one, the candidate has to come through that recruiter in order to get placed in the company. So that recruiter usually knows a lot more about the ins and outs and the people involved and the specific situation than a contingency recruiter might do. They're paid in 3 milestones. They're paid usually at the start of an agreement, in a couple of months or after they get 3 to 5 candidates, and then they're paid when the search is complete. Usually these are for $100,000 positions or higher. Back when I was placed by recruiters, they were much lower than $100,000, but I would say that's kind of the threshold now, because they're usually paid somewhere between a third and 50% of the first year's salary of the candidate that they're placing. I still get outreach from recruiters right now. I find a lot of them are just they're blowing air, which is unfortunate. But I've had a lot of good luck through my clients or with my clients and recruiters. And there's a way that we define which recruiters that you should reach out to. I usually say somewhere between 5 and 8 that will cover you in your specific area of expertise. Okay, best results from recruiters. Just be clear about what you want and why. Align your skills as best you can with what their needs are. Treat them professionally even when, and they will, ghost you. They are overwhelmed with text messages, with emails, with company communications, with people reaching out to them, etc. So they will ghost you. But when they have something that fits you and you fit what they're looking for, they can be your absolute best advocate. So it's kind of a hit or miss situation, and you just have to take it not personally. Follow up often till they say stop or no. That's usually my rule of thumb. Okay. Another form of outreach, which I've had 2 clients in the last 8 years do extremely, extremely well. And I'll give you one example. A woman down in Lakewood, New Jersey, had a very tight geographic restriction. She was an assistant pastor at a church and had to be within 15 minutes of that church for a variety of reasons, just for emergencies, for meetings, and all this other kind of stuff. So her geography was very limited. She was an office manager / executive assistant. So she found 48 different companies that fit the type of criteria that she was looking for, small to medium-sized businesses, and sent a letter like this through U.S. mail with her resume. Within 2 weeks, she had 3 interviews. By 3 weeks, she had 2 offers. Unbelievably, it really works. The reason why it works is because everybody has to answer the mail. And everybody also can erase emails and everything else that goes along with it. They just delete you, okay? But if somebody sees something in the mail, especially if it's personal and confidential, you can absolutely take advantage of that because your quote-unquote share of voice, as they say in the advertising world, is probably 100%. Okay, so you can read what this says here. We can modify this to fit what it is that would align with what you're looking for or what you want to say about yourself. But you don't have to be long and detailed about it. You just say, hey, listen, your organization is part of my search list because of your dominant position in the marketplace or because of some other reason, and requesting a few minutes of time, and you'll find it productive for your upcoming projects that you may be considering. And you might want to do a little bit of research before you send any one of these out, but it can be really effective. Okay, so day 2, your list. Okay, homework for tonight, or one of the homeworks for tonight, is to list 10 people that you feel would be beneficial in terms of helping you with your job search. And I really should say providing advice for you related to your job search, okay, because that advice turns into help. Again, this is your best option, bosses, colleagues, clients, and vendors, and all the other ones that I've listed here below. And then I'll say, I'm going to switch gears a little bit again. What is your moment? What is the time when there's quote unquote enough is enough? And I've had several of these, and I'll just highlight a couple of them right now. 3 times getting laid off with no notice. And one of the reasons I do this work, and I said this last night, is how can I help others avoid and overcome these kinds of situations or minimize the impact of them? I was working as a consultant. I'll just use one example here. Again, 3 times laid off with no notice. I was working on a project that had 12, or a consulting project that had 12 different new products that I was working on at various stages of development. And I reported to this one woman. I'd see her every couple of weeks, and I'd just give her status updates on where the projects were. There were 4 categories that I was working in as well, so there's really a lot going on. And it was like mid-February, and she said, well, we had our first sales meeting yesterday. We're not making our numbers. So what's going through my head is that they're going to pull a few of these projects back because they're not going to have the funding to introduce them into the marketplace on the proper timing. I was decidedly wrong. She then said, your last day is tomorrow. And it wasn't because I was doing a bad job. Okay, it was just because they decided that they were going to cut all non-staff people for first part of that year. That was, even though that wasn't the first time it happened, that's the one that hit me the hardest because I knew I was doing really well at that project. I had all kinds of good connections within the company. And I spent the next day just saying, hey, goodbye, good luck with this. And I'd hand the project over to him and do whatever. I don't know what's happened with each of you, at least in detail yet, but it's these moments that have said to me, how can I help others avoid the impact of this, both emotionally, financially, and career-wise going forward? So if you want to set up a call with me, here's my Calendly link. I'll show this a few other times. I had a QR code, which for some reason isn't working, but calendly.com, first name, last name, and then the number 7. So if you want to set up a call with me, the best time this week is going to be Friday because I will have some available time on Friday. I'll be in the car, but we can certainly have the conversation about whatever it is that is on your mind. And then next week, afternoons are better than the mornings. But yes, I'll have a lot of time next week as well. Okay, so I'm going to flip through this. I have a 3-minute timer here, but I'm not going to. In fact, I'm going to just go like this, and we'll get to the other end of it more quickly. But if you're ready and you want more for your life and your career, not later, but now, this is the time to have the conversation that I'm speaking about. And again, I've worked with over 650 clients in the last 13 years now, and it's been my pleasure and privilege to help them move forward to new career situations. I'm going to give you a couple examples here in a few minutes. All right. All right, so we're at the first half of tonight. I'll take a little break here for a second and just say any questions or thoughts on what we covered in the last probably 35-40 minutes. This is an open forum, participatory, so any thoughts, questions, or otherwise I'll just keep moving forward into interviews and negotiating. Okay. All right. So part 2 of this evening, proven interview tactics that allow you to negotiate what you deserve. And this is going to get us from second base to third base on my baseball field diagram. And we're also now at the I in the land it method, communicating your worth confidently to command top offers. This is where the rubber hits the road. So we're going to talk about landing strategies. How do you add value? How do you approach interviews? What are the key interview questions? How to follow up, and then what's next? So preparation for interviews, and this can go in a lot of different directions, but the biggest thing is who do you know in the organization? How do you know them? Advocates are tremendously important, and I have several examples of this, but my favorite one is a guy I used to play basketball with in New Jersey. A little after New Year's, he was talking about his new job. I said, "Oh, how did you get it?" He said, "Well, I had a conversation with a former colleague just after Thanksgiving, and he set me up with this company, and I interviewed and I got the job." I said, "Oh, what was the circumstance?" He said, "Well, my friend had interviewed for a vice president's position, and it was in New Jersey. And my friend Jeff had been commuting an hour and a half one way to Manhattan for 20 years. And Jeff's friend said to him, they got together for a drink again shortly after Thanksgiving, and said to him, "Hey, Jeff, the real reason I brought you here is because I interviewed for this position, but I turned it down because I got a promotion during the interview process. But the first person I thought of was you." 4 weeks later, Jeff was in the vice president's chair based on a recommendation and an advocacy from someone who didn't even work for the company. All right, so advocates are tremendously important, especially former colleagues and bosses that you've worked with. Several people that I know have worked with advocates to really get themselves to the top of the resume list and have some priority in terms of how the interviews go. So matching the skill sets to the job description, and then I'm going to come up with, and this is going to be participatory as well. What does "tell me about yourself" mean? And 2/3 of interviews start with that question. It's a really lazy question, but there's a purpose for it, and I'll get into that in a minute. But what does "tell me about yourself" mean? Yeah,
What do you
Raj.
know about the company?
Part of it is that. Go ahead. And Raj, you went off mute there. Go ahead.
So you know what, I think, yeah, it's very open-ended, and like you said, it's a lazy question. But you know what, it's a hurdle for me because for me, I'm wondering, well, what do they want to know, right?
Right.
It's, I start from the beginning of my career, kind of, and yeah, and it turns out to be rambling. And what we talked yesterday about interview skills. I think I gave myself a 2 or a 3 for interview skills.
Hmm.
This is the question. If they ask me about a certain situation, that type of thing, I can speak knowledgeably about it.
Okay.
I mean, but this whole "tell me about yourself," you know what? I'm not somebody who likes to talk about themselves in the first place,
Okay.
and so that's where I think that's my biggest hurdle to this whole time.
Oliver, you had what do you know about the company, which is part of
Yeah,
it.
I'd
Um,
say, oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. That's right.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, what can you do for us?
That's exactly it.
Was what I
Okay.
was meaning to
Tell me
say.
about yourself has nothing to do with you. What it really implies is what can you do for that person on the other side of the table, for that department, for the company, whatever it might be. And there are two ways that I've found effectively to answer the question. Number one, which I believe is less effective than number two, but I'll go with number one because it's the traditional, is you give yourself a 10, 15, 20-second max overview of your background in the best way that you can to fit the position that you feel would describe what they're looking for. Okay, I'm an experienced manufacturing and logistics professional, and I've worked on production lines, improved efficiencies by 9% in one company and 14% on another one, and these are the same kind of things I can do for you. I'm making it up. The second way that I have found to answer this question, I made this up, and I've never used it myself, but I've had many, many clients who have effectively used it, goes something like this. Somebody says, "Tell me about yourself." There are a lot of parts of my background that could be valuable for this position. Which ones would be the most helpful to discuss that would resolve the issues that are keeping you up at night? Okay? So two things happen when you say something like that. Number one, you say you're there to help, and you're not there with your hands folded in the prayer position saying, "I need a job," even though you might. All right? You're there to support and you're there to help. You're there to solve problems. The second thing is you force the interviewer to open up and disclose what's really going on in the department or in the company or the division, whatever it might be. They're not on the job description. "Oh, we have a new product launch happening in 90 days. We just lost somebody to maternity leave and another person left the company. I'm really short staffed." Okay, then you know what you're getting into. You may decide in 5 minutes you have no interest. You may decide in 5 minutes that you're really interested. Then the conversation goes to how can you address the issues that they bring up by responding to that question. What are the issues that are keeping you up at night? All right. So again, we rehearse this. I mean, this is not some. I'm telling you this. I mean, I've done this many, many times. But you being comfortable with the words, especially answering a question with a question, is a really important approach in terms of being successful in the interview process. Okay. So closing the deal, which is the interviewing, the hiring manager that convincing the hiring manager that you're the right and the only person for the job, and then finding or at least having access to advocates that are inside and outside the company. Can you handle 5 to 7 questions? We're going to get into those here shortly. Can you keep a dialogue going? Okay, the last thing you want to do in an interview is have it turn into like you're in an orange jumpsuit with a 60-watt light bulb over your head. You know, question, answer, question, answer. You want it to be a dialogue. You want your answers to be clear, compelling, and concise, just like your resume, and you want to be able to show value. The dialogue part goes like this. You answer a question with, let's just say, circumstances, actions, results, and say, are you experiencing similar situations here? Okay, so you can end an answer with a question, and then you become peers as opposed to somebody at this level and then you at this level having the conversation. All right, it's all about managing the dynamic of the interview. All right, we talked about this last night. Successful interviewing is how well do you verbally communicate with both your body language, with your tone of voice, and your words, obviously, how you've added value in the following ways: growing revenue, cutting costs, solving big problems, preventing big problems, or working with or creating teams to handle the first four. All right, so again, we do extensive interview practice to make sure that it just rolls off your tongue like you're having a conversation with a family member. Can you answer these questions in 30 to 60 seconds? And we did a little on tell me about yourself, but what I'm going to do, the one I'm going to focus on is the last one. What kind of position are you looking for? Usually that's obvious, but sometimes it's not. Okay, so if there's a specific position that you're interviewing with a company about and they don't have a job description, and that happens sometimes, they're starting a division, they don't really know what they're looking for, then you can be specific about answering the kind of position that you can support them with. Why are you leaving your current organization, or why are you considering leaving, or why did you leave? Why do you want to work for us? This, Oliver, goes back to the what do you know about the company and what do you know about what's happening. And there's a lot of information online, but the best sources of information are usually people who work with the company or used to work with the company in terms of what their key initiatives are. Give me an example of a time when you, and I'll just fill in the blank here, rescued a project that was over budget and it was not going to be delivered on time. What did you do to make it so that those two metrics came back in line? And then I ask all my clients to have 3 to 5 bullet points immediately ready before the interview as to why they should hire you. And there's a big reason for that. If you keep those in the back of your mind, and I've had some people write them on a 3x5 card and tape them to the top of their laptop so they can remind themselves, I have to bring up this point about why they should hire me. It may be an answer to a question, it may be a summary at the end of the interview, or it may be just part of the regular dialogue. But the more you remind yourself about why they should hire you and then summarize it at the end, the better off you're going to be. Effectively, an interview is like a legal brief. It's like you, the defense lawyer, standing up in front of the jury of 12 saying this is why you should be guilty of having them offer you the job. Okay? So, I mean, I'm being a little facetious here, but that's really what it is. Okay? You have 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to convince the individuals or team members or hiring managers, whatever it is, that not only are you the right person for the job, you're the only person that they should be considering. All right? And this takes practice to get good at. Okay. Key interview requirements, and these are outside of the informational stuff that I just referred to in the last slide. Energy and enthusiasm, body language. I've had a couple of clients recently that I really had to say, listen, I need you to record your interview so I can hear your tone of voice and get your enthusiasm or lack of it. Because if you're going to give a monotone through the whole thing, it's not going to work. Okay, people will read through that. Now, I'm not asking you to swing from the chandeliers and scream and holler and all that. I'm just saying have some vocal tones, pauses, have some personality, be a human being. Communication skills, and primarily related to how well you describe what it is that you can do to solve their problems. And then fit for the culture. Are you a match for the team, department, or the company? And that doesn't always mean that you agree with everything that is being said. That means you have a better option that they're not aware of. That can be a valuable fit for the culture as well, as long as it's delivered properly. All right. Now, some client introductions. He's not here tonight. He has been on others that I've done in this. A guy named Alex Brescia that I worked with back in 2021. He was working for a large food manufacturer in New Jersey, and he was working 5.5, 6 days a week. He didn't have the time to do job search. We did all of his resume and LinkedIn profile. He had 2 interviews in the first 4 or 5 months, but he was working full time and he was traveling a lot, etc. He invited me to his 50th birthday party, and he had had several promotions in the food industry. Then he got laid off in July of 2023. And when he got laid off, because he had done all the groundwork, he had 2 offers in 6 weeks. After that, he accepted one offer, got a promotion, and he has since moved on to another company since then. His income has grown 2.5 times since 2023. And he will say on and I again, I've had him on other calls like this, and he will go foaming at the mouth in terms of his experience and what we've done together. Now, he has the goods. Okay, he had some great experiences. He wasn't communicating them well before we worked together, but once he started to communicate them well, he really was right on it. And if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, are you still on the call?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Great. If you can come on video, that would be great. If you can't, I understand. But Kevin and I have been working for exactly what is it, 12 days. And he has an aeronautical engineering background, been a contractor for 2 years at a relatively low salary. We fixed his resume, prepared him for the interview, and Kevin, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Hello. So I'm currently a design engineer for Belkin. I contract to a large aerospace firm on commercial and military aircraft engines. Currently going through a job search process and should hopefully, fingers crossed, hear back from Boeing pretty soon. Going to be moving to a larger company from there. And it's been thanks to Bill. My issue was mostly the interview prep and how to answer my questions concisely. We were able to work through that, and it's been phenomenal. I was able to answer all the questions they had in half the interview time and left the interview with them saying that they were going to recommend me for the position.
Which is great. And the other thing is, you're another guy. You have the goods. Okay, I can't do your job. I'm not sure I want to, but I can't either way. But I can communicate about what you do, which is the most important thing. And making sure that you can do the same thing is my ultimate goal. And you and I worked at breakneck speed to get your resume together so that you could use that as opposed to the one that you had initially sent them, which was not nearly providing them with the value that you've added for your current company and some other situations before that. And you would be the second fastest person that I've ever worked with in terms of finding the job. They said it was going to be sometime next week that they're going to get back to you with which division that they want to offer you a position in. Is that the way they left it?
Yes, as far as I heard, they might have something else that's going to be more senior coming in. And if that
Okay.
is what happens, I have to re-interview. But that's something I'm still waiting on official confirmation for.
Okay, but listen to that. Again, this is news to me. More senior. Okay, so this salary, based on what you've described to me, is about 35% higher than what you were earning or have or are earning at this point. And if it's more senior than that because you interviewed as well as you did, then that salary is going to be higher than that, which is terrific, and you absolutely deserve it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been very awesome getting to work with you. So please, consider it, guys. It is very much so worth everything, and I truly believe it.
Well, and you've been very coachable, and you've been very forthcoming with the information about your background. It's guys like you that make my job easy and fun, actually. Because when you called me or sent me the text after the interview, I guess it was last Thursday, and I'm like, this is what it's all about: is landing the right company or the right role within a company, and then nailing it when you get to the interview. So congratulations, and we'll be waiting to hear the eventual outcome. When will they tell you about the more senior level position, or do you know that yet?
I'm hoping within the next day or two.
Cool. Okay, cool. So you know how to reach me. Text is the best way, and that goes for everybody. I have an open text line. I used Voxer for a while, but I wasn't. I didn't access Voxer, but I see text messages right away, and I'm usually able to get back to you in a few minutes, or usually within a couple hours, to address any situations that you might have. All right, great. Kevin, thanks for jumping on the call. You can stay on as long as you want, but appreciate you jumping on here on a Wednesday evening.
Of course, thank you.
Okay. Um, next, Hector Angulo is another gentleman that I'm working with. He also got laid off from a large food manufacturing company. We started in 2025. Fortunately for him, he had a very lengthy severance, and he was laid off on March 31st and had two offers by June 1st. He accepted the second one, and he started on June 16th. He is also part of a program that I call Leadership and Mentorship. And what that involves is either 6 months or 12 months of you and I having regular monthly meetings, usually twice a month, where we go through whatever agenda that's happening for you that's going to make it so that you're qualified for your promotions, your bonuses, your incentives, whatever it might be. So I started this program 2 years ago after two clients called me within 9 months of when they had started a job that I had helped them find and said it didn't work out. And then when they told me why, I realized that I could have mitigated a lot of what they went through, but I was not in the picture. So I have, again, as a post landing the job program, a leadership mentorship, and as you know, all my fees are less than $1 million, so it'll work out for you one way or the other. His new position, he called me up, told me what the offer was. I said, Hector, I think that's at the bottom of the salary range. Go back and ask for more. And the following 24 hours later, he came back with a $15,000 increase in his annual salary and a $5,000 signing bonus. So in 24 hours, based on proper negotiation and knowing what he was worth and communicating what he was worth, that was an additional 20 grand went into his pocket on an annual basis. So that adds up year to year. And significant responsibility increases in his new position. So I could go on several examples, but these three are just, happen to be top of the barrel. So landing strategies, closing the deal, how will you negotiate and how can you negotiate? How effectively have you quote unquote built value? And I have a bullet point here that's called the Kirby story. I'll make it quick. After my junior year of college, I did not have a job lined up, so a guy I played baseball with says, why don't you come sell Kirby vacuum cleaners with us? I said, okay, what does that mean? And I went to one of their meetings and I said, I'll try it. And ultimately, we would have in-home demonstrations where we would take all of the Kirby vacuum cleaner features, benefits that came along with it, which was a vacuum cleaner, a rug shampooer, and all kinds of accessories that would clean your windowsills, your stairs, your beds, and everything else. And the way it went during the demonstration was this. Mrs. Johnson, if you bought all of these items in a store right now, it would cost you $1,680. But you can buy this lifetime guaranteed Kirby vacuum cleaner for $595. I have no idea what they are today. And you can have that additional value along with it. So instead of $1,680, you can spend $595. If you have built your value properly, and you say all the things that you can do to add value for an organization, negotiating is easy. Okay, negotiating in job search is not like real estate when you're fighting over a number or whether you're going to, repair a damaged floor before you move out, or the person who's buying the house. That's not it. In negotiating for the position, it's all about what are the specific tasks and responsibilities that you're going to have and how will you be measured. And the job may say, I need A, B, C, and D, but you know that you can do E and F. And if you say, hey, listen, give me E and F, and I may have to hire somebody temporarily to just help me get started with it, but then you can ask for more. Okay, it's not within the salary range or the level that the company may have because you can take on more responsibilities. That's not the only way, but it's certainly a good way to effectively negotiate, because then you can say that your value is not just based on a number that you're arguing about, it's about the specific things that you can do to make a difference. Okay, so 3 keys for the 90-day success: compelling value proposition, networking strategy, The interview approach, preparation, communication, confidence. I mean, this is really the last day and a half summarized in one slide. And I will also put this one out there, and when I found this some years ago, it just amazed me, but it's been validated several times. Outreach, interviewing, job search is a marketing and sales activity. And if you're quote unquote in sales and you're quote unquote selling yourself, realize the following: 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop and then go all the way to the bottom. 80% of sales are made on the 5th through the 12th contact. So my mantra on this is follow up until they say stop or no. And once, if they say either of those, okay, fine. Either way, a lot of people give up way, way, way too soon. So what I'm going to do here now for the next couple of minutes is I'm going to speak about two options for programs to work with me. One of them is a group program, which I'll talk about first, and the other one is one-on-one. The group program I call Career Accelerator, 90 days to get paid what you're worth. Again, all the career coaching and mentorship to give you the exact blueprint and the tools to support your next high-paying job. You master how to position yourself for the best opportunities with your resume, your LinkedIn edits, one-to-one coaching, and weekly group calls. It's primarily group-oriented, but there will be one-to-one calls going along with it. And all the systems that go along with my book, Finding God's True Purpose for Your Career, and then we make sure that we rehearse your interviews individually, and sometimes we'll do them in groups as well. So what does it mean? You stop spinning your wheels and finally step into a career that pays you what you're worth. Clarity, confidence, and a repeatable process so that you not just this time can use it, but in the future as well. And I'll just give you the initial part of it is the weekly group calls. And I don't know why that at the top is Career Accelerator. That should say group. Something happened with that background there. Anyway, weekly group coaching calls. One-to-one career kickoff call, which is usually an hour to two to make sure that we're on the right path. And then we do personalized resume and LinkedIn with recruiter modes and edits, and we do mock interviews. And then the second part is the job search checklist, a 7-step right role strategy, and a networking playbook that gets you paid. And if in 90 days things don't work out, there's a bonus when you've sat through the last couple of nights of 30 days extra. This is $19.97, paid in full, or it's get started at $449, and there would be 5 payments of $449 if that's how you decided you wanted to do it. Okay, that is the group program. The other program, oops, let me do this here, is, and I'll do this slide here for a second. The other program is one-to-one or one-on-one. And anything about working with a career coach, my goal is to see your ROI be 5 to 15 times what you've invested in yourself. And many, many times I've succeeded with that. I say I, but it's really a we. An investment in your future, and I had this slide last night, it's a basis for your continued career growth. And it's not an expense. It's really an investment in yourself, because if you get back to work a week sooner, it pays out, and your opportunity cost at $100,000 a year is $400 a day. And what's holding you back from what you want? And if this is something that's really important to you, when you invested, if you did go to college, you certainly made that expense work and made it work for you so that at the other end of your college degree, you were had the credentials to get started in a position much like Oliver, what you're doing here recently in your new role. Okay, so with the one-to-one, and this is the Land It program, it's soup to nuts until you land everything you've seen this week and more, and in great detail. It starts with direction, destination, so that we're sure you're doing what you want to do and we know why. What your value proposition, resume, LinkedIn profile, outreach, which we just went through, interviewing and negotiating, and then 2 onboarding follow-up calls. And these are the client wins I've had, and I have about 15 more that I could add to this, but these are the ones that stuck out. I just spoke about Alex. Lynn got a new internal role at a $20,000 raise. Will, as you saw last night, had a $50,000 raise in a new position 5 weeks after he was laid off. Hector negotiated $20,000 in 24 hours. Normally this program, it's a sliding scale. If you're a recent college graduate, it's $1,500. Up to a senior level executive is $9,800. Today, or this week, because you've been part of this 3-day challenge, it's $1,200 as a recent college grad or $7,500 if you're a senior level executive. And we'd have to discuss, where you would land in all of this. And there's a reason for the sliding scale. I mean, no college student would want to pay $7,500, and a senior executive would laugh at me if he paid $1,500, or she. So it could be 4 installments of 350, which would be 1,400, or 4 installments of 2,100, which would be 8,400 for the senior level program. I also can do longer than 4 installments. I mean, as long as we work something out that you can commit to, I'm happy to have that conversation. So, um, my Venmo is this. I also have a Stripe account if that's something that would be easier for you to do on a credit card or a debit card. Venmo and Zelle are the easiest because there are no fees involved. One of these days I will consider Bitcoin, but it won't be today. And that's about it. Any thoughts or questions on what we? I'll do the homework here for a second. Tight answers to these questions. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can. And it's also in the Google Doc that I sent you before we got started. It should still be in the first email that you got related to these sessions. And these are the key example questions that if you can answer these first 5, you're going to get to the next phase of the interviews. Unless you fail something, unless there's a specific criteria that they want, like a certain programming language or something, you're going to get to the next level if you do this right. Okay. Questions or thoughts on everything that we've covered in the last hour and 10 minutes? Anybody want to chime in?
I'll chime in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit late, but good presentation, very useful. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for your time. And
You're welcome, and if I don't know if you had a chance to review. I know you had to leave a little early last night, but if you had a chance to review last night's link, you did receive it, correct, Smokey, or no?
the link, the review.
Yes, the link
Actually,
for last
not
night.
actually.
I sent it early. I sent it early this morning.
Okay.
Okay, and you'll receive the link for tonight as well if you decide you want to go through this before we reconvene tomorrow evening.
Okay.
Okay. So if there are no questions or thoughts, I know I've thrown a lot at you. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. I'll turn the share off here, and then and I'll turn the recording off here as well.